Very good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and a warm welcome to the second edition of Corrugated Unfolding Live, brought to you by India Core Expo, India Folding Carton, and IFA Congress. I would like to thank each and every one of you for being here with us today, and we are very pleased to welcome all of you to a very interesting panel discussion, which is themed as Back to Work EHS Protocol for Corrugated Manufacturing and how to build cost-effective EHS strategies to stay competitive in the current scenario. So towards the same, I would like to welcome all the panelists and thank you for joining us today, and also our distinguished thought leader and session moderator, Mr. Manish Patel, who's MD South India Paper Mills and who will be leading our upcoming discussion. So before we begin, I would like to make some very important housekeeping announcement. First of all, requesting all the panelists to keep your video on during the entire discussion and only unmute your mic during your talk. And my request to all the attendees that please feel free to drop your questions in the Q&A box right below your screen. And we will be discussing that at the end of the panel discussion. So thank you again for joining everyone, and over to you, Manish, sir.
Yes, good morning and welcome to all the participants and my colleagues on the panel. This is a very important webinar for us today. And, I would like to first state that as humankind, we are going through unprecedented times. Let me begin by stating that the current pandemic we are going through is one of the most difficult times in our history as human beings. We're dealing with a common global enemy in an environment of unprecedented global integration through trade and people interaction facilitated by modern travel and communication. This virus rides shotgun on these very features that define our environment, and it has spread rapidly with devastating effect across the globe. The economies have been more or less practically, for all practical purposes, destroyed and are limping back to normalcy. The battle is far from over, whilst our survival instinct has made us the most rapacious species on the planet. Ironically, it will also be our solution to this pandemic. Hopefully, with the awareness that we need to respect Mother Nature and protect our environment. This issue would be addressed as we discuss. Our immediate survival instincts demand that we carry on economic activity and save as many lives as possible. The actions to do so have started at the grassroots level and have to start there. And this includes the businesses and industries that we operate and work in. The objective of today's webinar is to not only share experiences and solutions, but also debate the prognosis of this pandemic to give us an idea of the time frame it will take in overcoming it. I would also like to state that we in the corrugating industry have essentially a small environmental footprint. In fact, our raw materials, particularly in India, are based entirely on recycling of old corrugated boxes. And our process generates boxes of a product which is recyclable. And corrugating is omnipresent. It's in every product that you buy comes through or is packed and shipped in a corrugated box. So our industry, per se, we begin with, fortunately, a smaller environmental footprint. But the focus of today's webinar is on the protocols and the practical systems that we need to have in place to operate safely. With this, I would like to go on to introduce my co-panelists. I begin with Mr. Ravi Goswami, who is the Associate Director of EHS, Environment, Health and Systems at PepsiCo. He is therefore going to be representing us on the from food industry perspective. We have Mr. Rajendra Patil, also Senior Manager, Corporate Safety at Asian Paints, with the durables, semi-durables product manufacturer. We have Mr. Sayuj, who is Senior Manager of Climate Change and Sustainability Services at Ernst & Young, who will give us a perspective from perhaps the much broader and a global perspective on what's happening. Mr. Vinod Jyotikumar from Syngene International, subsidiary of Biocon, who has some very interesting perspectives to share with you, and perhaps could generate a prognosis on where this pandemic is going over time. Then I have my colleagues from the Indian Corrugated Case Manufacturers Association, Mr. Rishabh Agarwal from Rio Parapack, Mr. Prashant Tikmani, Director at TGI Packaging in Chennai, and Mr. Nitin Vada, Director Security Packs from Delhi. So we have across the nation perspective when we share what's happening in our industries with our panelists. The format of today's webinar will include presentations by the first four panelists that I introduced, followed up by questions and answers within the panelists, raising comments and questions, and followed finally with question and answers from the participants of the webinar. So I will I'll start with asking Mr. Sayuj of Ernst & Young to make his short presentation on this topic. Sayuj, please.
Thank you, Mr. Patel. Hope I'm audible.
Yes, go ahead.
And welcome to all the other participants as well. Interestingly, when we talk about getting back to work, I think always one thing which comes to my mind is a very famous old Bollywood song. I'm sure most of us have heard of it, which says "Bahar se koi andar na aa sake, andar se koi bahar na ja sake, socho kabhi aisa ho to kya ho." I'm sure none of us actually ever thought that this is going to happen in the last couple of months. I guess not only here, I think across the globe, this has been a situation. All of us have been indoors and not sure what's happening. Well, having said that, now that, we are permitted to go out, say, start work, start our plant operations, there are, I'm sure, a lot of questions which are bothering each one of us. Now, just like COVID, where we know that there is no foolproof answer till date, even these questions probably does not have a, like a short foolproof answer, but yes, that together in collaboration, we can definitely come out with solutions which can, help us minimize probably our queries, our risks in this, this entire scenario of opening back. Now, what are some of the questions I'm sure which all of us would be thinking of? Like, I definitely think of how safe is my office, my workstation or the shop floor. If I go there, I am taking all the care at my house, but what happens once I go there? Or say, will my company give me sanitizers, masks, or anything else which I think, I should be using? Or probably I may not even know what is best for me. Probably my company should know and they tell me that, okay, wear a face shield. So is that something which they will do for me? Probably some of us, I've heard my friends saying that, look, my area of work is material handling and a lot of, entry exit of vehicle and people or raw material. What am I going to do? Probably my company is the best doing everything, but people are coming in. I mean, how do I ensure that they're also taking care of at least minimum non-negotiable safety precautions? That is something which is there in all our minds. Now, probably as a plant head or as a line in charge, something which I'm sure all of us definitely would need to know or need to answer is that probably I feel that, yes, I have done everything best possible, taking global experiences, local industry experiences, but what is the perception? Does my employee who's coming in after all of this also equally feel safe? Because it's very important that everyone feels safe and have a, the positive perception around saying that, look, that I am in an environment which is, kind of taken care altogether. The other thing which is again important is, how do I communicate? I think communication is very important to your, not only to your internal, that's not internal stakeholders, I would say to your customers, to your suppliers, to your, in fact, even to the community we are operating. Because it's very important that they need to know that because we are opening up, we are not posing a threat to, say, their lives, or probably as a customer where I'm taking materials from you, I'm not getting something which is infected. So I'm sure communication around that is equally very important, and timely communication, I would say. The other thing, which very often we as consultants get queries is that there are so many guidelines, there are so much information being floating around, say by WHO, say by CDC, that is your Center for Disease Control. There is this Occupational Safety and Health Association. Then there is ICMR. Then there is state governments, National Ministry of Health. So many guidelines coming out. Now, what is it? Do I need to look into all of it? How do I customize it to my operations? What is required for me? What is not required for me? Is there a, say, a minimum must to do? Is there a good to do? So this is something which is also equally important. And lastly, as a citizen, or as a, say, as an NGO, as a normal person, we all know that last couple of months, we've been seeing that the overall pollution load, be it the air pollution, be it the water pollution, has significantly dropped. Now, I'm sure we are all wondering, the minute we're opening up, are we going to say like double our production, or are we going to say do things which is going to, take me back, not 3 months ago, but probably take me back 1 or 2 years ago where things was really bad. So these are some of the things which I'm sure has crossed, most of our mind. And it's very, very important that we ask the right questions and we also come out with some kind of answers, because otherwise we all know what we heard when the opening up happened. I think 2 or 3, I think it's a telecom company who had to shut down because they found some cases, positive cases in their premises. Similarly, we all know the gas leak in Vizag or a gas leak in one of the paper mills in Chhattisgarh. So we are aware of the unfortunate incident which happened along with opening up. So it's very important to address these questions and try and minimize the risk of our operations. Now, while I think someone is on.
Yeah, I got some background sound, but carry on.
Yeah. So while as I spoke, while there are so many questions and so many unanswered questions, broadly probably we could look at 5 or 6 areas which are the key or the focus which every organization needs to take up along with the opening up. One would definitely be the response protocols. It's very important to see that I'm sure all of us have a EHS system in place. There'll be SOPs, guidelines, but are these protocols sufficient? Are they adequate from the current scenario, from a pandemic, from a COVID point of view? So response protocol is one, definitely. Second would be resources. Resource here, I mean in things like say masks, say sanitizers, face shield, other things. Do we have enough of them? Do we have right number of them? Do we know how to use? So shortage of resource is something which is definitely a focus area which every organization needs to look at. Third would be say the infrastructure. Now, why infrastructure? Because see, one example is the workplace. Now with social distancing, you never know that there could be a requirement that we have to redesign our workstation itself. Or let's take another scenario. Say touch wood, never happens, but there is some symptomatic case in our premises. Do we have like a ward or a room for temporary isolation before they can be sent to the right hospital or clinic? Or say, most of the manufacturing, what we see is a lot of migrant laborers. Now they're coming back. Now, obviously, it's not possible that day one they start getting back to work. Every state has got its own requirement of say 7-day or a 14-day or a 10-day home quarantining. In that scenario, what is my responsibility? Do I need to say provide them with some kind of a facility within my premises, or do I need to look for something nearby and also ensure that they are confined in that? So the entire infrastructure and the requirements around that is something which is the next focus area. The other focus area, as I spoke, would definitely be around communication awareness. Very, very important to tell what's to be done, what is not to be done from an employee own control point of view, and communication from a larger audience point of view, that we are trying to tell them that look, we have done ABC, and basis this we feel that our product, our people, you at large, our ecosystem is definitely safe. So communication awareness is something we have to look into. Then we have the entire point on how trained our workforce is. While we definitely have trained staff in safety, environment, but definitely this is a situation which is something which no one knows. There's no examples, previous example as to what needs to be done. So training of our workforce is very, very important. Last but not the least, say that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that is protocols, resources, infrastructure, communication, training, everything is in order. How am I going to supervise? How am I going to ensure that whatever I said needs to be done is being done? How do I ensure that there is no violation of say social distancing in the pantry? How am I going to say collect data around this? How am I going to generate report for, it could be for management, it could be for my own employees, or it could be even to the government. So how am I going to supervise and ensure that there is evidence that, okay, what needs to be done is being done, and I identify areas where there's improvement, I can work upon it. So these are probably 5 or 6 large areas where every organization needs to look at and be prepared along with opening is what I would say. Now, having spoken about these areas or focus areas or issue, there can be many approaches where everyone can take up. But I would like to talk about a three-pronged approach. First would be something which needs to be done right now. That is, I would say ideally before the opening happens, which is a crisis assessment. The first is crisis assessment. Then as you open up, there is crisis response. Then you look at something a long term, because we all know that there's not something that's going to end and say, there's no deadline for this. We cannot say that August 23rd, 12 a.m. this is going to stop. We all know that. So we have to look at something which is beyond, the current situation. So I would say crisis assessment, crisis response, and going beyond building resilience would be a three-pronged approach. Just to probably touch upon what ideally could be done in a crisis assessment is all what I spoke about: the resources, the protocols, the infrastructure. Try and do a quick rapid assessment, do a gap assessment against various guidelines, and see, is there a requirement to come up with new protocols, new infrastructure, or is there a requirement to upgrade my existing system procedures? And also looking at the entire operations. For example, say entry exit points for employees, say visitors, say material flow. It can be movement of people in the common areas like the pantry or the washrooms. It can be as simple as distancing between two employees. I mean, how do we look at that? It could be even things like how do you capture data. So it's very important that before you open up, ideally, I think we're a little already taken a couple of steps away from that, is that assessment should have been done before you open up, so that we are very clear, we have done the risk assessment, we know, we have prioritized what needs to be done before we start, because it's inevitable that we have to start. And Ms. Patel said it's important that economic activity has to begin. So risk assessment would be the first thing which we could look at. Second is the crisis response. That is, now, yes, we're open, we are at our workplace. So then the whole point is, how do we ensure that whatever we had finalized or we had decided in the crisis assessment is being effectively implemented. Now, while there could be task force, there could be EHS teams and things like that, probably, I would like to bring in that this is the area where the digital solutions could definitely be very effective, and it could ease. For instance, let us say that every morning employees are coming at the entry gate. They check for temperature, they check for the other symptoms. Can all of this data be immediately captured in some kind of a dashboard? And users get to see what is compliant, or at least I get to see, okay, this didn't go well, or this can be done differently. Because as I said, there is no foolproof solution. Let's take another example. Say the management wants to know how many of them today are working from home, how many are in my premises, and when you say in my premises, where are they coming from? Can I have a quick dashboard which can be seen in that level? Let's take another example. Say you have a protocol saying that a particular
some audio loss.
Am I audible now?
Yeah, carry on.
Yeah. So probably say we have a protocol which says that a particular building or a particular workplace need to be disinfected 4 times a day. Now, how do we ensure that this is happening? Do we have some evidence which can be uploaded onto some kind of a digital platform which everyone can see? Or say, simple example, I'm in my workstation. Now, I feel something is not, I want to report about my co-worker who I feel is showing some kind of a symptom, or I am not very comfortable. Or say I'm coming from an area and my exposure is pretty high because it could be a containment zone, or it could be, maybe someone near has got a positive case. So how do I report this? So these are some of the, I would say, things which can be easily solved through digital solutions, say a simple app or a very, very simple, which can be used by anyone who uses a smartphone. I'm not talking about a high-end kind of thing, which anyone, every level can access this, and using some kind of a system. It could be a robotic process automation or XYZ. There are many possibilities. And if you have that, the most important thing is the issue of data collection, analysis, reporting, and verification can definitely be taken care in a much effective manner. So in the in the second pillar, which is the crisis response, I think we should be looking at digital solutions which can go in sync with our day-to-day activity, which I'm not saying that we move away from physical verification, but it's going to go work hand in hand. Last but not the least, I said, is going beyond. That is looking at, we all know that yes, probably COVID may be something which may taken care of in next 6 months, 3 months, 2 months, whatever it is. But there are all chances that we could have another pandemic. It could be an epidemic. It could be a, say, natural, a man-made disaster, some warfare, some terrorist activity. So we now need to be always prepared. I mean, we never thought that, this could ever happen, that we're going to shut down the entire operations. So our crisis management earlier plan was very, very, okay, flood comes, what do we do? Or the earthquake, what do we do? But now we look at EHS as a larger strategic kind of a pillar, work back along with business continuity plans and form a larger, a foolproof kind of thing where we are future proofing ourselves, not looking at just immediate 2, 3, 4 months, but a larger horizon, and try and future proof ourselves and minimize the whole risk around it.
Okay, so may I request you to move so that we have time for the others.
I'm just closing it. So basically from all this, the issues and the whole idea is that EHS is very important, and it will be. And some of the areas, my co-panelists would, where I spoke more generic in terms of what the issues are, what needs to be done, my co-panelists would ideally share their experience and expertise on each of these areas, how the crisis assessment has been done or what needs to be done, or crisis response. So, this is it from my end for now. Over to you, Patel.
Thank you very much, Sujit, for suggesting a structured approach to the CHS modifications in these times. And the digital solutions looks something very interesting. I mean, where you have perhaps a dashboard and you can really have a good check on what's happening. We'll now move on to Mr. Vinod Jyotikumar from Biocon, Syngene, to give his perspectives. I'm sure he has some interesting ideas about the prognosis part. As you said, so you mentioned about resilience post-pandemic when that happens. So on to you, Mr. Vinod Jyotikumar.
Thank you, Manish sir, and good morning, everyone. And it's a great forum to be a part of. So basically, I will be the odd man out in this forum. However, just a brief, my background, I'm a doctorate in molecular microbiology and also the biological safety officer for Syngene. So thanks, Sayoj, for giving a great insight in terms of COVID governance and a new normal that we are all in. And one of the important things that we need to be continuously aware is last couple of months, the virus itself has been conducting us as as come of some kind of a music show, and we're all being tuned according to the needs and the requirements for that process. And I think you rightly got all the key points, right from the governance, right from the mask, everything, and also return back to office. And to add on to that, and also talk about the present situation. Always remember the governance in every company. When you return back to your employees, one thing that we need to understand is this is a crisis situation. There will be a behavior change. There will be panic. Everybody has got families. Everybody has got their loved ones and everything. So everybody needs to be calm, including the line managers and leadership, because this is where the confidence we need to build in our employees to come back to work. And with whatever the points that we heard before on the governance, having that laid down, that gives more confidence to people. And now to a brief about COVID as such. It is a small virus, and I think one point which Sayuj really touched upon, a lot of information are flowing in. World Health Organization in their initial situation report, I think I'm not sure about 26th or 25th report, they had mentioned along with pandemic, we are suffering from infodemic. When we had the first outbreak, a few years back, SARS, MERS, or even for that matter, or Ebola, which was pretty recent, this much of traction was not there. Whereas this has picked up so much traction, which is good, the awareness-wise. But what has happened is it has filtered out lot of along with the messages, there are a lot of noise, lot of distortion. So people are not getting the right information authentic information. And that's exactly what Sayuj was pointing out. It'll be good to have a dedicated, some kind of an information center within the organization where the employees can confidently go to the site and say, yeah, this is where we are getting from. This is exactly what to be followed. This will just, it'll just help us to gain the trust, reliability, as well as a rapport with the employee. Now, the COVID itself, it comes under a common cold family. And it is assumed that in 2009, an old, one of the research article was published. In fact, one of the author was mentioning this virus was identified, but they put a disclaimer saying that highly unlikely this is going to be infectious to humans. However, with all the recent evidences that is surfacing, we see that definitely there is a tropism that is being, it is a jargon used in the medical terms. Basically, it has changed its genetic nature from hosting in animals to humans. Somehow it is passed, and that's where we are landed up right now at the present state. So India, we are from the 21st, June 21st report from World Health Organization, we are around close to 4 lakhs cases reported. Having said that, I'm really proud and we should be honored that ICMR is really pushing up the testing, and we are covered nearly 6 lakhs and above testing. The remaining are all came negative, and also we have recorded around 55% recovery rate and around 3% of death. And till now, all the senior doctors as well as the top medical virologists in the country, they are telling that most of these are they're talking about the virus and their sustenance for over a period of time. We are just heading into a wave one. So yes, we are still not there. We are going to see a spike, and it might go for next couple of months. But having said that, with all the governance in place, like SMS, I've talked about SMS. One is social distancing, and second is wearing mask all the time. Having said that, you can see as all our panelists not wearing mask. Don't think that's non-compliance. You don't need to wear a mask when you are sitting alone. So that is also you should understand. It's not mandatory that you need to wear a mask all the time. When you are with somebody, with a more with with somebody in the same room, that's when you wear a mask. And definitely hand washing and hand sanitizing. These three principally, if you follow, I think that should be the mantra to return back to work safely. And in terms of the wave that we are going to see, it might take us at least September, October, where it might peak. And what people are projecting with the data, there are a lot of clusters are now being reported, along with tests has been increased. And I believe most of you are in every area. You'd have understood that there are a lot of activities, a lot of government regulations are being changed. It's dynamic, and we just have to adhere to the ground rules of containment, adhere to the governance what the local and state governments are advising us. And in terms of when you are not in containment, when you're returning back to work, always have the governance of mask, social distancing, and using hand sanitizers. Anything that we do in terms of operational as well, or in your workflow, process flow, don't have any ambiguity. Have a simple PPE based on the workflow. Do a simple risk assessment. If your workflow is going to generate a lot of aerosols or anything, definitely have a mask and also a face shield. If your workflow is going to have just handling boxes, try to have an disposable apron and a gloves with a mask so that they can handle it, and have a glove cycle so that the gloves start sweating out sometime, so the employees can have a glove cycle to make sure that they can change it. So these are some the minimal things that we put in place as a governance mechanism which will help us in long term. So having said that, I think the answer to you, sir, Manish sir, yes, it is going to be there for some time. COVID is going to be with us. That's a reality. But having said that, we have to make sure. Till now, the lockdown was, we were talking about liveliness. Now the livelihood is questioned, and we have to follow the governance, bring back the confidence in employees, and continue our business. And that is very essential. So I hope I addressed, some of the key things for the team.
Thank you, Vinod. Thank you very much. I'm sure there are lots of questions coming your way later on possibly the vaccine and treatment and where the horizon is
Sure.
as we go down. Now we go on to Mr. Ravi Goswami from PepsiCo to share their experiences in manufacturing, particularly in the food industry. Ravi, please.
Yeah, thank you, Manish. Good morning, all. I know that people are aware that because we are seeing this from last 4 months, people are aware enough about this now, and I'm not going to drain your time on this. But before we start, this pandemic is unprecedented. I know that in the month of January, when it was started in China, no one else have even thought of that this is going to be a global pandemic. But this is now a reality, and I often get people asking, "Oh, this is happening. We have to do this thing." So, to be very honest, this is a reality, and we have to accept this reality and take action that will definitely help us. Now, I'm not going to go away that what should we do and all, but maybe many of us are having a question. Say, suppose if there is a positive case and government comes and shut the operation, how can we avoid that? So I think that is what in most of the entrepreneurs or the organizations mind, how can we avoid that? Obviously people are concerned for their employees safety, but this is the question, if I see in any of the CEO's mind, how can I avoid the shutting down of the operation? So in my opinion, there are two things which can help us in terms of avoiding. One is obviously the prevention, what my fellow panelists talked about. It is important that whatever preventions we are taking, we keep it a document ready. So even if some cases are coming up, if authorities are coming, we are ready with the preventions, all with this pictorial and other stuff. And when I talk about prevention, just focus on the social distancing part. Maybe say someone was talking about that there is an issue. How can we ensure this social distancing? Maybe in canteen, there may be simple prevention which we can do. Say like putting a acrylic sheet barricade or maybe some curtain kind of stuff. So it is not necessary that everyone sits at 2 meter distance, but if we can make some kind of barricading, that should definitely help. Another, obviously, we spoke about the PPs, compliance, other stuff, so I'm not going to talk on that. Now, secondly, suppose if there is a positive case comes up in the organization. So obviously, what is the protocol that we identify that person, and we also identify that in last 48 hours, who all came into contact with that positive person. Maybe another interesting aspect, because when we come to know the positive person, because that person goes to doctor, then doctor prescribe the test sometimes takes 2 days, 3 days, and by the time that virus is spreading like anything, and that is the situation. When it happens, then obviously there is no way, and if there are 15-20 people are already infected, then there would be definitely a possibility of shutting down the operation. So simple, my advice, and this is not this is my personal thought around it, and backed by some scientific research, that we immediately carry out the last 48 hours contact of that particular person. We isolate that person. If required, the person consult to doctor. And the contacts, now maybe I don't know how to do the contact tracing. So simple funda. if any person was contacted in last 48 hours, and it is not just passing, maybe you can take a principle that less than 2 meter, and if that person has interacted that particular day more than 10 minutes, because what happens, we have all the protocol that any symptomatic person will not come or enter into the plant, but asymptomatic, until unless the large droplet goes within passing, the spread is very low. So yes, this is what, and this contact tracing we can do through the maybe some interview protocol uses backed by. So it start with the interview of that particular person who is suspected, backed by definitely the CCTV cameras. You can put some movement register. So do that person's contact, maybe it is organization decision whether we isolate them as well or put them on watch list. Immediately clean the area wherever the person has visited. That should definitely help. And if required, some of the product we have to quarantine. And the survival time is maximum 3 days of this virus. So we may take a call of quarantine the product for 3 days. If we do all these actions, immediately document them, and once say after 2 days the person is positive, authorities comes, we say this is what immediately actions we took. We ensure that this is not spreading, and this is the documented, readily printed, available documents. I'm sure that authorities will take these things into consideration, and I see the possibility of getting operation shut is very low in this case. So I thought instead of talking, maybe I'll pick one or two instances. So this should definitely help the team. Now there is another thing wherein I found that people are saying, okay, we found a case, but in our screening, this does not crop up. So just one thing, actually what is happening nowadays, you go anywhere in the mall, in the shops, there is a security guy standing with a gun, just checking the temperature, and we don't know whether the procedure he is taking is correct or incorrect. So just to give you kind of an idea, the correct reading of the gun will come if the temperature is taken between 2 inches to 6 inches. If the person is taking from 1 feet or maybe just touching the body, the temperature would show the wrong result, and that may result that a symptomatic person entering into our facility. So that will definitely, so though we have protocols, but whether it is correct or not, we should take another, just to avoid spread, if we can implement a 8-hour cleaning on the frequently touch points, maybe canteen or the locker room, change room, or the canteen. That will definitely, if we found a person, so the chances of spreading is low. Why? Because we are already ensuring social distancing, we are putting barricading or something, we are giving the mask. So by this, we are actually just ensuring that that the protocols are in place. And I'm not going to drain the time of other participant, but yeah, there may be a number of preventions protocols, but everything, if it is documented, even that actions readily available, that will definitely help in kind of convincing the authorities. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Ravi. Brilliant suggestion about having a system in place. So when you can demonstrate that your actions have been you've been very diligent with them, and perhaps get away with a shorter shutdown in the case of a positive. Of course, we are always playing Russian roulette with every employee. He goes home, he's working 8 hours in the factory, but 16 hours he's outside. So every time he enters the factory, you have a potential of bringing in the disease. So having a system, a documented system to establish things was a very key takeaway from your talk. We go on now to Mr. Rajendra Kumar from Asian Paints for his perspectives and experience.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Actually, we heard from Ravi, maybe Sayuj and Vinod also. So maybe I'll touch upon. So I think when it comes to industry, I think if I look at the participants are there from all the corrugated boxes industries. So I think these kind of industries are maybe small setup kind of thing. So So first and foremost thing which we should keep in mind is that how do we set up the protocols before we start? I think everybody would have started once the unlock one would have happened. But at the same time, so setting up the protocol for restart operation itself is a first move, which will give us a clear-cut direction on the operation part. So first is, so if employees are coming, if even migrant workers are coming, setting up those guidelines for coming up all those people inside the premises, then their sanitization protocol, then maybe if the vehicles are coming inside the premises, how do we establish that protocol for the sanitization? Even you might have RM vehicles which will be coming inside. So I think if we can look at that aspects also, because the worry part is, or the area of concern is only the carrier which is coming inside the premises and going outside the premises. So how do we look at all those aspects? That is the important thing. So setting up the protocols. Second point which I want to touch upon is there are guidelines set up by various ministries. So Ministry of Health and Welfare, Ministry of Home Affairs, respective state guidelines have been set up. So we have to look at those guidelines clearly, because under the Pandemic Act, it is very important to follow those guidelines. Other there can be a serious action. So importantly, following the guidelines and keeping the records of all the relevant stuff is very important when it comes to a restart of the operations, because that is where the picture comes. I think Suyoj or Ravi also was talking about, if something goes wrong, case is a positive in the premises, so then government body will come into picture. So in that case, so I think maybe I'll just touch upon something on the hygienic part also. I think setting up the protocols for the hygiene is very important. I think there are three aspects which we need to look at. Point number one is entering the premises, or at the entry of the premises itself, so all the sanitation protocols to be followed. Second part is important, that external area which is should be disinfected regularly. There has to be a frequency of disinfection very regularly, and there are certain frequently touched surfaces, maybe staircases, maybe work areas, desks, equipments, and maybe raw materials or any finished good which you are sending it out. So everywhere there are high chances of touching the surfaces. So how do we set up those hygiene guidelines? That is very important actually. So if I have to talk about, I think this is one more area where there are chances of going wrong. So there are list of chemicals which is available. So there are clear-cut guidelines set up by WHO as well as Ministry of Health and Welfare, where they have given the names of the chemical, frequencies of the hygienic requirements, or how do we establish that hygienic requirement, because doing a disinfection with the wrong chemical or wrong agent itself will be a lead to another hazard. So how do we avoid that? So I think a lot of guidelines are available on the so government is doing a good job in this area, and they are continuously circulating the guidelines. If we go through those guidelines and setting up as applicable to our premises, I think that is going to help. Second part, so what I look at is that cost effectiveness and overhead budget, how do we control? Because everybody will have thought in mind, how do we look at the costing part of it, because business is there, so we have to look at that business part also. So there are so one more thing is that people are saying everybody has to use N95. So it's not required actually. It is basically needs to be used by the healthcare workers, those who are there, so they can use the N95 mask. But for common man or whoever is there coming inside, so they can use 3-ply or 5-ply mask which are available. There are reusable kind of mask available. They are very cheap. So maybe I think we should identify the supply. So in our case, what we have done, that there are 2 supplies which we have identified. They are giving us a very cost-effective and reusable kind of guidelines. But in this case, there is only one thing which I want to say, that how do we establish that protocol for reusing? So disinfection after using the mask and all these things. So that needs to be clearly defined. That will definitely help to remain on the cost-effective part. That is on the personal. So defining the personal protective equipment parts, it is going to help like anything, because that is where your prevention or protection of the people is going to come in. So if we look at those things, this is going to help. So I think Ravi has covered a lot of things into emergency response part. So, but I'll just quickly touch upon the 4 5 points which are very important when it comes to emergency protocol, setting up the protocol for emergency. So, first and foremost thing that you should have one isolation room for the person to whom you suspect that it is a positive kind of thing. So, isolation room, any room which is isolated from the regular area can be done with. So once that is done, because if you think that this person is a identified suspicion, then you can maybe there are helplines or there are contact list which is available for the hospitals, which you can use it properly, and then maybe you can call upon the ambulance or with proper PP, and they may you can shift that person to the nearest COVID centers. I think list of the COVID centers also is available. I think this protocol needs to be very important, and I think Ravi touched upon the contact tracing part also. I think one of the case which I heard that once somebody is tested positive or suspected, and then contact tracing part. So I think this contact tracing itself is a one important thing which we should be looking at, because in that case we need to isolate those people also, quarantine. And last part which needs to be importantly understand that there are guidelines for home quarantine, isolation from the work, or if somebody has traveled from some containment zone or red zone, so I think they need to be isolated for center. So there is a clear cut guideline given by the government. In that case we should follow those guidelines and quarantine the people, especially migrant worker. I think in some of one of our cases what we have come across that there were migrant people which have come in. So we had to hire a nearest place which is a contained kind of thing, and where we kept them for some 7 days. So based on the protocol of the local area, and then thereafter we allow them to. So we try to restricted the movements of those people because they are the carrier. Then second, because your control is there when they are inside the premises, but you don't have any control when they are outside the premises. So how do we establish that control also? And contact tracing of those people will be important when it comes to sustaining the way. Second thing, I think importantly, when it comes to small scale kind of setup, so what we need to look at the resource utilization very effectively, because what will happen if somebody is tested positive, and if he because of the cultural reason, if somebody is not maintaining social distancing, and we had to isolate all other people in the premises, then your work is going to stuck up. So you have to think over this particular aspect and look at the things, how do we manage that resources so that our business will run and effectively. Last part which is very important, though we are talking about usage of PPEs and masks and all these things, but this is going to generate a waste a lot. So but disposal of this particular waste part is going to again importantly very important in this case. Otherwise there are high chances of this thing. So there are protocols. So the waste disposal protocols for the incineration, this will come under biomedical waste, and then we need to identify the nearest facility for the incineration, and then we need to send or disposal of that waste which is arising out of the operation day in day out, and then disinfecting the surfaces after usage. And last part in the disinfection area, I think even one of the important areas, toilet area, segregation of the toilet or washroom areas, maintaining social distancing in that particular areas. So how do we look at all those things that is going to help like anything. I think these are the few things which I thought I will share with all of you. I think maybe we can take a specific questions.
Thank you very much, Rajendra, for very practical tips on how we may go about within the factory. As you rightly identified, many of our members in our association in the corrugated industry run smaller operations. So some of the tips on isolating rooms and all this would be a little difficult, but the concept is something that they should bear in mind. So now I think we'll just go on to quickly with our ICCA members. I'll start with Mr. Prashant Tikmani. Prashant.
Yeah, good morning. So like how Mr. Patil was saying, I just like to add a case study, what we did when we started back our operations way back in April. You know, first thing what we did was we said all our contractors that we people coming from outside, because okay, before that we all are MSME and we all depend on migrant workers. And second set of workers are the contract workers who come from outside, and some are staying within our premises or our dedicated premises. So what we did is we said that contractors who are willing to give the workers to us and stay with us in our dedicated premises, we will keep them, because so that they are under our control, our monitoring system, so that we are very sure that this is not a spread that is happening. Second, we did is we made a confinement zone within that stay area where any new migrant workers who are coming, they are kept there for 7 days. They're kept under watch. And then the next 7 days, we put them into non-core areas like store or waste bundling or something where they are not much in interaction with people. So this way, we were trying to firewall any new migrant workers whom we were trying to hire at during these pandemic times.
Very interesting.
These are some very small measures that we did. And of course, what we did when April, first thing was we hired a premises which was 3 times larger than what our people were staying, so that they could maintain social distancing. So it was a 250-200 square feet of room in which only 4 people are there, so they can maintain a distance between them. So this is all at our cost, what we did.
Excellent. We go on to Rishabh, please. Rishabh.
Good morning or rather good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to focus a little bit more on the practical aspects. So I'd like, if possible, Mr. Vinod Kumar could also share with us we are in a very small industry. We don't have a lot of various raw materials. We don't have huge chemicals coming in. It's simple paper coming in, we make the box and send it. So our raw materials is just paper and glue. Yes, so it's nothing too big. So we would like to know as to, there are protocols from the government. This is what you should use. This is what you shouldn't use. Can you just give us practically, this is the sanitizer or disinfectant you must use for people. This is the one for the vehicles. And this is the one for the premises or the touch buttons on the machines or something like that. So just give us the practical, simple solution, which we can just go in the market and buy. We don't have to worry too much on this, because, you know, just like you said, N95 is not required. Now, okay, the protocol says maybe N95 is not required, but this practically we are not able to gauge that. So what would be good for our industry? I would say basically only the 3. One is for the vehicles, for the people, and in the premises or on our product. Secondly, we would like to know a little bit more on like the surfaces, as you said, that every surface has a different life cycle. We have understood in the last few days that paper is one of the most, the virus doesn't stand on paper for a long time. I don't know if this is true or not. And if we can then tell our customers not to worry, because we are having some cases where the customers are saying, okay, we must quarantine your material for 2 days before the truck comes and everything. So that was another aspect. And third is that for us as a MSME, there is a lot of costs involved also in this. So you have people who are doing sanitizing, you may have extra watchman at the gate who needs to be taking care of people coming in, going out, keeping the record. What is the industry doing? I would like to understand from Mr. Rajendra and Mr. Ravi, what is the industry doing? They consider this as a separate cost altogether? You have or it is just as a general expense and you're taking it with the flow into your costing, you know, or what is it? Because this is something new and it's not a very minor cost. There is a cost to this. Yeah. Lastly, when we talk about, we are afraid that because we are a service industry, we get orders, we need to send the packaging. A lot of us supply just in time. So if our factory, for God forbid, one of our workers gets COVID, then we are afraid that our factory is closed. So as you said, yes, we must follow the protocols and we must try to mitigate by when the authorities are there, we are able to tell them that, look, we are following all the guidelines and this is all that we have done and you shouldn't be worrying too much about it. And they are more confident that everything is okay. So one is that the worker comes to our factory, we find him, he has high temperature, we send him to the doctor. The doctor gives him a prescription, he goes for the COVID test and supposedly he comes positive. Then what must we do? Should we inform who? Do we inform the factory inspector, for example? Which are the authorities that we need to suo moto go and give any information to? Yes, we just can't just, or shall we continue until someone comes and says, okay, we want to shut you down? What happens? Can anyone share with us any experiences on that?
Would anyone like to pick up that particular question?
Yeah.
So I'll just try to answer on the disinfection part, which I think he was trying to ask about the very specific things.
Yes.
When it comes, when it is coming to a human body contact, I think we should use the alcohol-based sanitizer. So that is very specific, which you can think about. When it is coming for the external area, and there are few areas where, so like toilet is another area where you can use 1% sodium hypochlorite solution. I think there is a preparation guidelines available, maybe 1% solution in maybe, so maybe 100 ml in 1 liter, 10 ml in 1 liter or something like that. So if you use that particular solution, I think you can do the cleaning with the surface. So if you have to do a equipment cleaning, so I think where people also will be in touch with the equipment. So in that case, there is a chemical called LYSOL, Lysol karke, there is one chemical available. So which can be used for the surface cleaning purpose, especially for the equipment, because we cannot use their solvent kind of this thing because maybe because of the working conditions. So that is another thing. And even if it's a staircase, there I think you can use solvent base also, or maybe a Lysol kind of solution for staircase cleaning purpose. So that can be even table for table cleaning and workplace cleaning also. So normal Lysol solution or even Choline also can be used in that particular.
Application by spray or is it wiped?
So, sir, staircases and all, it can be used spray or mopping also can be used, and then maybe hand railings can be wiping can be done for the hand railings. So I think in that case we should display. So once we prepare this particular guideline, so we should display that guideline clearly. The person who is using that solution, I think he should be trained enough, or there are agencies available, but then that will cost you a lot. So instead of that, if you train your in-house housekeeping person itself, so that is going to help you in terms of cost also.
Sir, what about incoming vehicles?
So incoming vehicle also, so maybe 1% hypochlorite can be used in that case. So I think do not spray a solvent kind of things, which will, so maybe for vehicle only, but do not spray anything on the human body. That is not going to help, as well as it will pose the another hazard. So when you are doing the vehicle disinfection, so please ask that person to move away from the vehicle, do the spraying on the vehicle, and then maybe he can take the vehicle to the respective locations. Or maybe if you can ask him to direct the vehicle to the parking area itself and then do the disinfection, that will be a great thing.
Rajendra, a question for you. The vehicle disinfection is certainly one thing that is possible, but normally the disease is carried by personnel. So the driver and the helper who comes typically with a truck are potentially likely to be carrying that disease. And how would you need to provide them certain facilities while they are within your premises, or perhaps ask them to wait until the material is unloaded. You might disinfect the truck, but you would have to have separate facilities from your own employees to prevent it carrying it.
So I'll share my own experience, because how do we avoid that? First and foremost thing, when you are doing a gate entry, I think do not allow them to get down from the vehicle itself. So we need to change that protocol. So maybe from the remote, so like what Ravi was trying to say, how do we, so we, in our case, we have thermal imagery camera, which, so it will scan the person for the temperature also. But if it is not possible, thermal gun also can help you, because that is cost effective solutions. Then if you have to, if any case driver has to get down, maybe he has to wear the gloves and then come, or handling of the documents, how do we avoid that? That needs to be looked at. And in the unloading area also, what we are trying to practice is that whenever that vehicle is coming inside, so we are trying to avoid that getting down from the vehicle itself. Minimization of getting down from the vehicle, it will help. And then when unloading can be used by the internal people only. So that is that protocol needs to be changed accordingly.
Before we go into more questions, may I ask Nitin also to give his input? Nitin, I think you need to fix your mic, Nitin. It's on mute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Yeah. I was just thinking on this, if you, Mr. Vinod can also give us some comments on the appropriate chemicals, for cleaning both sanitization as well as the staircase and the machines. I know Rajendraji has given us his inputs, but it would be good to hear from you also, Vinodji.
Sure, sir. So thanks, Rajendra sir. So it's been, I'm just echoing what Rajendra Patel has just said. Yes, he has given some of the key chemicals, but very important, any chemicals that we use, contact time is very, very important. So read the manufacturer guidelines and understand what is the required contact time. If the concentration decreases, you are working on a various concentration like zero point 0.1, zero point 0.2 or zero point 0.5 or 1% or above 1%, the contact time obviously decreases, the concentration increases. Now, I think Rajendra Patel has clearly portrayed about choosing the chemicals for the activity base, which is very, very critical. And on that note, I would also like to share that when you choose in your processes, because there will be some questions that raising up saying that we are using certain delicate products, will it cross contaminate my products and stuff like that. So it's important to understand your business profile, and based on that there are different types of chemicals available, but what of the economically available chemical, and with World Health Organization and Government of India, ICMR, AIMS, everybody recommend is our simple household bleach. So anything with 1% or less than 1%. Now the question comes, will the bleach start having cross reactivity with certain materials we are handling? Yes, there will be some chances, and we have to do a separate assessment for that on the choice of materials that we need to do for cleaning. So because for example, if they are steel or if they are some other material, yes, there will be some cross reactivity. So for example, in a healthcare industry, people are used Provident iodine as one of the choice of disinfectant because they feel that that is much better. And also in some areas where you feel there is a lot of heat involved or something like that, sometimes if it's a closed environment and you want to use a bleach that releases the active ingredient oxidizing chlorine gas, and that will also be occupational hazard for the people who are deploying that. So I would say that yes, one of the common chemical and economically available is bleach, but based on your nature of work, your workflow, and what is your requirement, we can tailor that to understand what is the right chemical to be used and for what contact time, and that can be worked out on review basis.
Okay. Is that Nitin okay for you? The answer?
Yeah, I just have a question. There, people have been talking about silver hydrogen peroxide. Is that a recommended solution? Is it more effective or?
Yes, sir. To address that, silver is a metal. So any metal at which is dispersed at so finite molecules, it has got some antibacterial qualities, antiviral. I have not heard about it. However, hydrogen peroxide is also an active ingredient, can be a good choice of disinfectant. But the only con for that is it might come on a bit little expensive side, and the contact time is also different for it. So in our industries, in biopharmaceutical, by practice we choose hydrogen peroxide for fine mist and fumigation purposes, which covers a larger volume because based on our requirement. So based on your requirement and your processes, yes, you can choose hydrogen peroxide as one of the disinfectant. And like I said, in those places where you cannot apply hypochlorite, you can choose hydrogen peroxide, which to be much a safer option. Again, I'm telling it's only hydrogen peroxide. I'm not linking to the silver nanoparticle because honestly, I don't have evidences. I have not come across, so I would not market for that. But I would say using household bleach or hydrogen peroxide should be okay. But one more thing I want to share here is there will always be a question which come to our mind in any processes, how to decontaminate the entire stuff. So when you see that consignment, when you see the workflow, people panic. I have a different suggestion to it. We protect the people wearing simple procedures, mask on, gloves on, and an apron. Don't worry about focusing on trying to achieve a bigger consignment for decontamination purposes, because it is going to be really tough and challenging. And like Rishabh sir was mentioning, there will be a lot of other industries who may not have the same infrastructure where they could not reach out to that level. But if we protect the employee who is doing that with the right thing, maybe we can give mask, eye goggle protection with side sash or overhead, or a simple face shield, and do the conduct the operation and keep all the materials in open area, well ventilated, sunlight and everything. That should take care of that couple of days. And then your material inside you can take and take, based on whatever the materials, either you can use 1% disinfectant or even a simple soap solution, because this virus is a lipid enriched virus. Every research and also a lot of organization have said simple soap washing should kill this virus, into dismantle this into micro or nanoparticles, because it is so lipid enriched. The moment the detergent come in contact, it just destroys it. So I would say any detergent or a regular soap that we use, household bleach and hydrogen peroxide for certain this one. There are other disinfectants in the market like benzoyl chloride, providone iodine and everything. But again, I'm not sharing that, because based on your industry, based on your requirement, yes, things can change. And also the sensitivity of the materials, that should also take it in account for.
So interesting. One question for you: when you use when alcohol is used for hand sanitizing, it does need mechanical action to be effective, or just, let's say if you spray alcohol on your hands, would that be effective? Do you think the isopropyl alcohol based?
So, so Manish, it is about, it's all the surface exposure. So when we are talking about any sterilization, the basic microbiological definition is whether that chemical, all the disinfectant has reached to all the parts. So if you have some kind of an environment or infrastructure where you have some kind of a fogging mechanism or a misting mechanism, yes, you can get all the exposures. That should be enough for the 30 seconds rule or a 2 seconds rule. But if you don't have that, you can always apply it. Make sure you spread it to all the areas to make sure it reaches, because being alcohol, the contact time is very less. It evaporates faster.
Right. Okay. Answers my question.
Okay, I have just one follow-up on this, which may be slightly divergent, but these days in the market, we see a lot of fogging machines being recommended. And one of the questions which comes is, A, are they effective? And if so, what can...
Not recommended. Actually, it is banned by the Ministry of Welfare. Actually. So we should not be using any fogging machine on the body, and that is not helpful also. So not required to use.
The body for the home, for a room.
For the home.
From humans, the primary contact is through touch, and it is by breathing, right? Exhalation.
Yes.
Correct.
So
and hand cleaning perhaps is the most effective way to make sure people are,
Yes,
so
yes, sir.
That is just a sense of satisfaction. Actually, what fogging machine people are trying to claim. So I don't know whether that is really effective.
What do some of your industries do for, say, common operator in a shift? At the end of the shift, he's touched certain surfaces, keypads, and stuff like that, and then he leaves, control pads or HMI interfaces.
So in that case, that's what I was trying to tell Manish ji. What we have done is that there is no overlap between two shifts. Actually, earlier it used to happen that there is a handing over and taking over kind of things, but it's a kind of remote handing over and taking over which is happening. So that half an hour overlapping time. So there is no overlap, and we are keeping that half an hour's time, which gives a cushion to complete the disinfection where it is a frequently touched. So these are all identified parts, so which can be disinfected during that particular hour. And entry of the people is from one gate, and maybe exit of the people can be, or otherwise you can just keep the separate time for entry and exit. So in that case, we can avoid that overlapping time or maybe contact time with the people, so that there is no the social distancing is maintained and people are segregated.
So have you actually defined a separate crew that undertakes the disinfection?
Yeah. So there is a
There's a
complete
new team
marking which
also
is
you have
done
to-
inside the entry also for social distancing. When people are getting down from the vehicles also, there is a protocol for sensing the temperature, and then maybe hand sanitizer placed, and they have to. So we have deactivated that biometric. If you have any biometric thing, so you have to deactivate actually. That is again
But
30
basically, you have organized and constituted a new team whose whole role is to only disinfect, right? In organizationally, have you set up?
Organizationally, you need not to have a separate setup, but within the teams, we have identified certain teams for certain communication purpose, maybe certain disinfection kind of activities. So there is a team defined which will take care of each of the areas. So emergency protocol, if somebody has to so who will look after that? So these are the 2-3 people who are in charge of that particular area. Disinfection, there is some separate team. So even sometimes it happens that there is alternate day working is happening. So we have ensured that people are coming on the alternate basis, and there is a person availability who looks after all these areas. So that
Maybe
needs to
Manish,
be.
just to give you answer, basically, I don't see that there is a dedicated full-fledged team. Maybe there are a couple of people, the existing housekeeping staff, who can actually do the cleaning for frequently touch points like canteen, like washroom, like change room, main entry gate, and also at the work location, we can assign the operator who are working that whatever the panel or whatever the frequent touch point, 5-10 minutes while they go, they clean, and the person who is joining, just 5 minutes he spend on that particular frequent touch point, they can clean. By this way, I think without any additional load, we can do that.
Right. I think that's
I agree with Ravi.
guys. Prashant, any
Yeah, Manish Bhai, I would like to add to something what Sayuj was saying, back to work. So, in fact, it's a very valid information that, we received an notice or just a mail from the pollution department saying that, we are coming back to work, please take care and have no discharges. And because obviously this is, everybody's seeing a new blue sky. So there was a soft letter that had come from pollution board that you're going to start your work. So be careful and try to maintain what it is. And by virtue, like how you were telling that, our industry is very environmental friendly. We have 4 areas that we need to just concentrate. One is the glue wash, try to recycle, like reuse them. And the ink wash, try to treat that and, treat that water and then discharge. Third is the boiler house, where, you get the fly ash and blow down. You need to treat that. And the fourth one is the human waste. If these 4 areas are being addressed, I think we could, keep the pollution norms well intact.
Yes, I think our industry is very amenable to keeping it.
Yeah, it's very basic, very basic, because there's no other discharge that we have in our industry.
And the technology is easily available and not
it's very cost effective, very cost effective.
Treatment and
so there's been a reset button. We should now maintain that, So
Prashant, just to add on your point, so why PCB or sometimes the Department of Factories? So there are 2 reasons of them sending the letter. One is obviously the virus. Another is there were a couple of incidents. One is that gas leak. There were a couple of boiler blasts. So because that was the Prime Minister's call to this National Disaster Management Authority, and then in turn they are directing the PCBs or maybe sometimes the Department of Factories, just so as industries to kind of there is, whenever they reopen, the process safety part is taken care of.
Yeah.
Rishabh, some specific questions to any of the panelists?
Yeah, so a question which I had asked, part of it has been answered. For example, like in case a worker is found to have COVID positive, then which are the authorities that we must have to approach suo moto? And we have got a good answer of what are the kind of documentations we should keep. So we could have photographs, we could have the records of the people who are coming with their temperatures every day, and the number of PPEs we have bought and distributed to everyone, the sanitizing process, the intervals and everything. But is there somewhere where we have to suo moto go and inform and take any permission again or something like that? Is there
Anyone
any
would like to
guideline
pick
for
up?
that?
Ravi, you want to answer or I'll answer?
Yeah. So basically, centrally, if you say there is no centrally, to best of my knowledge, there is no central agency which has been notified, but every state, every district, they are having. But I think, in my opinion, there are two very important stakeholders. One is the health officer, because most of the cases, even the actions and the tracking, everything is done by the health department. So the local health officer or PHC, whatever we say, and most of the district or states nowadays are having the COVID nodal officer. So in my opinion, these two, then some districts say that this SDM, other thing, they have defined that these are. So what we are doing is at least one this, and then the local police SDM, we are having the contact details readily available. But PSC and the COVID nodal officer, in my opinion, should be.
So I'll just try to add upon what Ravi is trying to say. So once that case is identified, so local health officer needs to be intimated. So he will visit your premises and then he will try to inspect that where that person has done, and they will guide on the what should be done with that person. So how do we handle that case? And thereafter, they will not stop the operations, but they will look at the disinfection done, or they will guide you on something. So it is not something that they are not industry friendly. So I think they will come and definitely guide you. I think we have come across one of the cases. In that case, they came up, I think they spent almost 3 to 4 hours inside the premises, and then they guided on, and they verified everything, that how disinfection is carried out inside the premises, and then they allow us to restart the operation. So it is not
And
something that they will stop the operation.
If you go to Ministry of Health notification 4th of June, it now does not say that even in 1 or 2 cases we have to close the industry. It says when there is a larger outbreak and they define 15 or more people, then there is a shutdown of 2 days.
And so in this case, only one risk which comes to my mind is that if person is there, so that's what I was trying to indicate, that if that person, one person has been identified, so the contact tracing will happen, and all the people, those who have come in contact with that person, so will be quarantined for some period of time. So I think that is one crucial action which will come in.
So basically, for our industry, our medium scale, small scale industry, the take is that we must have to keep a good documentation of how we are doing what. We should know where the persons are working, which shift. And if we have that properly, and then someone is coming to inspect, we are able to showcase to them very well all the aspects and give them that much confidence that they are allowing us to work with some guidelines for them.
And Rishabh, just to add, when you prepare this, try, so as far as possible, try to fix a location for that particular person. So there is no crisscrossing of movement. And secondly, restrict the movement to max possible. Like you can limit the time to canteen at 10-15 minutes or something, so that the person is not moving freely. Hence, the contact tracing is easy and the minimum persons are impacted.
So one good thing which is coming up is that I think this is purely helpful for industry. So there is some very cost-effective test which is coming up recently. I think yet to conclude on that maybe, but within very few days it will come in. So it is called RT-PCR. There is one test. So I think maybe Vinod can add if he is aware about that. So that test is likely to come and very cost-effective. So maybe it gives a result within half an hour. Maybe it's a kind of screening. It might happen.
That is antibody.
It's a zero surveillance. You are right, Ravi. So it's a zero surveillance. So just to add on to you, Rishabhji. So I think Rajendra and Ravi has rightly said, and you also really echoed it. Whatever the preparation that we are doing from our industry standpoint, that and gains the confidence from the authorities, that will really boost our morale, and they will also say that which area to be contained and decontaminated. Having said that, I just want to share along with the documentation a couple of things which we implemented. One is zoning. Our campus is big, huge. So we decided to go for zones. And you see, I'm wearing a tag. It's called a zone tag. So I'm allowed to go only in some zones. I cannot go freely in other zones unless it is required for me to be there. Otherwise, the moment any employee is entering into any premises, we are making sure they go directly to that particular building. In fact, our transportation goes directly to the specific building. They drop the employees there, picks the employee from the entrance of the building and goes back. So we don't allow any jaywalking of employees within the premises. Second thing, what we also did was staggering lunch timing. It is a challenging for people, but if we can stagger the lunch, say within 1 hour lunch time, if we can stagger people and make sure they come in different times and they go, that also helped. And these governance, when we put in front of our authorities, they really appreciate, because to be honest with you, this kind of pandemic or crisis nobody has ever faced. In fact, this entire team, I think we will go in history in the books, because we all are like COVID warriors. We are planning, trying to get as much of governance in place. All this is going to be historical tomorrow for the reference, because everybody, including the government, that's why most of the regulations, most of the circulars are getting frequently updated, dynamic, because they also seek industry experts for suggestions how to do that. And just to add on to Rajendra sir's point regarding the zero surveillance, that's going to be beneficial as well when they launch it. But one thing I will share, that the moment the gates are open for any surveillance or any testing, which the company can freely do, because until now ICMR testing strategy was very specific. They said only if you are symptomatic and fall into certain categories, you will be tested, or you are from interstate, you will be tested. Now, I think government are getting into a mode where they're opening the gates. So those who can afford, they can go testing those. So if that is going to come, one suggestion, and we should all remember that, is whatever zoning or whatever housekeeping we are following governance within our company, we want to make sure we have the list, and in case they turn positive, we need to have an isolated room within the company. Make sure that the employee handed over, because the moment it's, because for example, like we were talking about zero surveillance, we give a blood test, it takes 2 hours, but until then that employee stays within the campus and works, right? We don't know, so we cannot panic, push the panic button and say, hey, we have taken 100 people test, so you guys stay here. No, the business has to run normal. The moment we get the test, shift that person, immediately give them a N95 mask and put them in the quarantine room. There are list of fever clinics, there are list of hospitals every state have declared. Call them immediately. Before that, I would do one more homework. Try to do a mock drill simulation test. Get to know your local hospital, within which are the COVID hospital where you can tie up, where you can send the patients. So these details, if you gather, put it in your information chart, that helps, and actually that expedites the process. So tomorrow when we do the test, or when we find out somebody turned positive, or if the authorities come knocking at the door saying that, hey, one of the contact tracing is in your company and he seems to be a secondary contact, there's nothing to panic. That's okay. You know the whereabouts of that person. You have the entire checklist with you. Put that person into that quarantine room, which you have already have within your company. Give them an N95 mask, and then follow the procedure. It is pretty simple, and that gives a lot of confidence for our employees as well as for the authorities who comes. And so that's something I thought I would share.
I think this discussion could go on very, very long. We have
I know.
to reserve a few minutes for question and answers from some of the attendees. And this is, almost, we should have another half an hour the way things are going. But Mithul, do we have questions? Unmute, please unmute. Mithul, you need to.
Yeah, we have few of them. Few of the questions have been answered during the discussion. So I'll just come up with a few questions that are still to be answered. Okay, one is related to paper, asking what is the quarantine time before we use and touch materials like paper, plastic, metal, and vehicles in other work areas. How do we not transmit this virus through these materials, and how do we inform our workplace to know the the way we should go ahead with handling these materials.
Anyone who would like to take this, Vinod?
So yes, sir. So Mitul sir, so like I said, any material that's going to come, one thing is primarily our PPE should be the first metrics to address. So rather than getting paranoid about the consignment that's coming in, if the employee is having the right PPE metrics with the right governing procedures and the gloves and everything, materials can be handled. You have a PPE process, you have a disposal process, and then there is a, maybe you can have this certain materials coming from certain highly infected areas. You can have some space, okay, anything coming from high infected areas, just quarantine there one day or 2 days, and that kind of a staggering system or a protocol can be implied. Because as such now, if I tell you can deploy some kind of a decontamination process or something, that may not standardize, because every material has its own material value and quality and everything that has to be addressed as well. So I hope I could justify your answer. Yeah.
I think that answer is better. It's better to take an approach where you protect the people, is what we're trying to say essentially, rather than isolating the material or identifying a specific period, which itself is not definite information. I think that's what you're trying to say. Mitul, another question from the...
So now I'm going to club few questions which are related to one another. So we all take good care in the operations area of factory, and staff lives in different areas. We train them how to manage, but still they get infected outside, and if one case is found even at the security gate while incoming, the issue is quite big. So one of the people is saying that it happened to one of his customer place and the unit had to be shut down for 20 days. And second, the workers who are working in the factory are worried to come to work. Now, how do we address this?
Yeah, I'll try to take this question. So one is obviously, so 8 hours, I would say that the person, when they are in factory, 8 hours with the robust protocol, the chances are very, very, very low. Now, this is a reality that outside 16 hours, there is a high possibility. So one is obviously, we cannot go and intervene much outside area. The only thing which can help is maybe in terms of bringing the awareness amongst the people. Some of the organization are in fact saying that, okay, while you are going out, just keep this surgical mask, maybe 5, 6, 7 rupees, and try to kind of keep it and bring the social distancing, other stuff. Now, additionally, we say if they are coming to factory, that there is a possibility of getting the factory shut. So two things I would like to here say. One is obviously there are 80% of people are asymptomatic. What we are doing within our industry, if we are following 3 rules, one is mandatory mask uses, social distancing, maybe variegation, whatever way we are doing, and frequent disinfection. If we are doing these 3 things, there is very, very, very low possibility of spreading the virus to other people. Now, suppose, because I was saying there was one more question, if there is a person we found that symptomatic at gate, what should we do? So there is simple. Basically, the scientific studies, what they say, you do the contact tracing for that particular person for last 48 hours. Preferably, do the isolation of those people, do the sanitation wherever the people visited in last 48 hours. And if required, based on protocol, because the maximum survival time of virus is 3 days. You, wherever the person visited, maybe for maximum 3 days, you can hold that particular area's product on maximum 3 days quarantine. If we do that thing, cleaning, contact tracing, isolating them, even if government agencies comes or whoever comes, we have very, very solid, robust evidences. One is not spreading within the company. We found, we did the disinfection, all these things. I think if we do that, we can easily battle this fight.
Very well responded.
And just to add one other point here, it's also it'll be a good idea to capture information of the location from where the employees are coming, and also probably 1 or 2 additional questions in terms of who are they living with and what is their occupation. It'll just give you some idea to probably come with some kind of risk rating to say that if employees are exposed to higher risk, and then we could take a conscious call of, putting them in certain area or looking at the timing and things like that.
I think in this case, we can take the declaration at the beginning when person first time coming inside the premises, we can take the declaration. So it not required a digital solution, but you can use simple paper to take the declaration, which will give you the from where he coming from, where he stays, where is the contact point. So all these things will be getting covered. So maybe 15 to 20 points checklist is available, which can be used for declaration purpose. So I think that will give a fair idea of the person.
Right.
Great suggestions. I think we have just 1 minute left. Maybe one question, Mithul, more from the.
Okay, fine. Probably I'll just ask 2 more questions. One is the right and correct method of disposable of mask and PPE, if anything is used in the factory, is very important for us. How to dispose this. And secondly, is Arogya Setu app required? How are these other companies using it? Is it been effective or not?
Rajendra, I think you mentioned.
I'll take the question, no problem. So disposal of the mask, I think maybe you should have a designated waste bins for disposal of the mask, and try to ensure that educate the people on disposing the mask into those bins. So those collected masks can be soaked into a 1% hypochlorite solution for some period of time, and then maybe send it for the incineration purpose. So that is one question, first question. Second question, you were asking about Arogya Setu. Arogya Setu, definitely it is helping. So because one is that you can yourself declare whether you are well or unwell. So, and then it will give. So in that case, only thing is that you have to keep your Bluetooth on continuously. Second thing is that you are able to identify the people, those who are positive in the nearest vicinity. So maybe 500 or 1000. So I think it is good to have kind of thing. So you should have. And then I think government is also mandating to install the Arogya Setu apps. But then maybe in your case, your type of industry, there might be a constraint because people may not have Android phone itself. So then I don't know how it is going to work. But it is good to have, nothing to.
I think we need to conclude now. We are exactly at 12:31. So I hand it over back to Swada for closing the webinar. Thank you very much, my co-panelists.
Thank you so much, Manish sir, for sharing this and making it on time. I would like to thank every panelist and each and every speaker who took their time out of their busy schedule, because I think everyone is too tied up now that we are open for business. I would also like to thank all the ICMA members for joining us today, and the ICMA Congress for supporting us and helping us compiling this. And my special thanks to Mr. Harish Madan sir for guiding throughout compiling the topic and kind of which we were able to get today. Also, I would like to make another very important announcement that we are going to host the 3rd edition of the Corrugated and Folding Live on 31st of July. So I would request all the attendees to please stay tuned, and we will share all the related communications over email. Thank you so much everyone for joining us today. Have a great day. Thank you so much.
So,
Thank you very much.
Thank you everyone. Have a safe and wonderful
having all
weekend.
of you on the panel. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And rest questions we will be answering offline. Thank you so much.